Appreciate you hanging out with us. Hope you're doing well out there, friends. Tone's got the fresh dew going there, and we know he smells good.
The fresh dew or lack thereof.
I like it, man.
I like to say, I had to get it nice and clean. You know what I mean? Feels good. I smell good. I took my vitamins. I ate a little breakfast, some eggs and some broccoli, man. I feel great, man.
Ready to roll, baby. Ready
I feel
to
great, man.
roll. All right, let's do a little roll. Speaking of roll, let's do a little roll call. Teresa, what is up, Twiz? What is up, David? Bry Guy, Flexit and Stepping, Nafees. What is up, Kyle? What's up, James? What's up, Mo? Who else do we have here? Rob from Temple. M. Reyes, Bluturian, and I think I got everybody. So hope everybody's doing good out there.
You know what's funny, Rob? I love how you really take the time out every show to acknowledge the people. At the beginning of every show, you take the time out. And that means a lot to me because over the weekend I was thinking, and we have our good days. We have our not as good days. And I'm thinking, wow, these people come in and check in with us every single day, Monday through Friday. That's pretty stellar. So we appreciate you guys for always taking that time out. The great takes, the not so great takes, the support, the pseudo hate. We love all you guys. And it's fun. It's exciting. And I'm glad you guys are a part of this journey with us. So happy Monday, man. It's February 5th, man. The month of love and the month of Black history, baby.
There you go.
So let's have some fun.
All right. So a couple things. Speaking of, speaking of the weekend, did you watch the Grammys last night?
No. No. And actually, I'm so glad you brought that up.
Okay.
Because I watched what I did watch, though. I watched that documentary you told me about.
Yes.
I watched the greatest night in pop.
Yeah, which is the We Are the World song coming
and
together.
And that was what, 1984? Was that
84 into 85? They came. Harry Belafonte reached out with the idea late 84, and then it carried over into 85. Yes.
Right. And it was the AMAs. And
Correct.
one thing that stood out to me, and me and the wife were talking about it. One person said, the AMAs, that was at that time, that was the biggest night in music. That was a big freaking deal. So, when you bring up the Grammys, it's like award shows, they've lost their significance. Superstars, musicians, they've kind of lost that mystique. You know what I mean? Because of the access we have now. But no, I didn't watch the Grammys, man. I just can't really get into award shows anymore. It used to be an event where the family would literally order food, or we'll watch the performances. We'll talk about it the next day at maybe in high school or middle school. And it used to be an event, man. I remember my family used to gather around the TV and watch the BET Awards because it was always something you was leaving there with. Always something. Yeah. But now, they just don't have the same magic anymore.
Yeah, I got you, man. My wife was watching it, and what was I watching? I was watching, I don't know, Villanova blew out Providence last night. I was flipping around a little bit. So she was watching. I saw a little bit. I didn't see a ton, but I'm glad you got a chance to check out. All right, let's see hey, Rob, who is more of a priority, Swift or Reddick? I believe Reddick deserves his contract, even though Swift is. Oh, he's going Taylor Swift since we were talking Grammys. I'd say Taylor is. No, I would say more of a priority would be Reddick. But if you don't re-sign Swift, you better figure it out real quick what you're doing at running back, whether that's the draft or however you're going to handle this thing. So, but appreciate you the question there. No, real quick. Oh, I see that Slagger 57, True Detective. I know I'm all over the place. I don't care. My wife and I watched the first 2 episodes Friday. So I didn't see, I think last night was the 4th.
I heard that show was really good. I haven't,
I'm not loving it so far.
Okay. See, it's an anthology. So, every season's like a different set of detectives.
Oh, it's totally different. I love it.
I've never got into it at all. So I've been thinking about starting from the very beginning.
Oh, okay. Hold on. This time, full timeout.
Uh-oh.
You have to watch the first season.
That's the one with Matthew McConaughey, right?
McConaughey and Woody Harrelson. It is spectacular. It's some of the best acting you will ever see from McConaughey. Okay. So 100% watch the first year.
Got you.
I'm trying not to get into this one. I don't want to ruin it for anybody. So, watch if you want. I'm not, whatever. And I'm going to watch the third one, and it might it might hook me in a little bit more. I didn't hate it. I didn't
Right.
love the first two. I like Jodie Foster, but I didn't love the first two so far. It's okay. It's okay.
It might get you. It might get you in the third episode. You never know. It might
Yeah,
pull
yeah.
you. You know. It might
I'm
be
not done with it. I'm watching it.
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
going to
Cool.
watch
Cool.
the third one. Yeah, for sure. All
Hey,
right,
did you
so
notice the person in the chat
Stone to Shields.
completely just that's how you know you've made it, Rob. When they create a YouTube account with with your photo and they play around with your name.
I agree with you.
I love this actually. I appreciate whoever this is. You are appreciated. Trust and believe. That's how you know you made it. I made it, you guys.
Congrats.
I have parody accounts now, Rob.
That's it, man. You're big time. You are big time. You know what they say, man. Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery.
For sure, man. I love you guys, truly.
All right. So anyway, yeah, but I'm glad you caught up on that on the 84, 85 We Are the World. It was spectacular.
Yeah, it was.
And yeah, and again, a little bit of the Grammys, not a ton. Watched a little bit of True Detective over the weekend. So again, we always try to pass along little nuggets for you. If there's something we watch, we'll pass it along to you this evening.
One thing I will say, Rob.
Yeah.
My man Killer Mike had a great night at the Grammys.
He had quite a night. Yes,
my
he
man
did.
Killer Mike, baby.
Got a win and got some handcuffs slapped. Got some bracelets slapped on him real quick. But you know what? You know what they say, man. And any kind of pub is good pub. So Killer Mike got some good pub last night.
I love Killer Mike, man. Truly, one of the, in my opinion, one of the most underrated rappers out there, man. Been doing it for a long time, and I loved him in Run the Jewels. I love his most recent project, Michael, from beginning to end. He's just a hell of an artist, man, and just a hell of an orator, speaker, a hell of an intellect. Truly a man of character that wears multiple hats. So yeah, shout out to Killer Mike, man. I didn't watch the Grammys, but one thing I did know, my man Killer Mike won Best Rap Album of the Year, Best Hip Hop Album of the Year, and I'm rolling with that.
That's right. And you're going to bail him out later. You didn't hear that part of it. He asked you for a little bail money. But anyway, all right. So a couple other things here. Joel Embiid. So here's what we know. He will have a corrective procedure, aka some form of surgery, to correct a meniscus injury, which is specifically known as displaced flap of meniscus. Who knew that was a thing? But that is a thing. So he's going to have surgery. Now, it could be in the 6 to 8 week range, which would get him back, essentially like mid-March-ish. But until you get in there and look around and see what's going on, in the knee, we don't know, and we're not going to know. So until he has the surgery, we really won't know. In a way, Tone, I'm glad in this sense. With the rest thing, it was going to be basically him you felt like dragging a knee around in the postseason again. Right. And for at least this time, they're doing exactly what they have to do to get this guy back to being as close to 100% as he can be. And I know with his injury history, who knows what that even means. But this, I think, is the right choice for him and the team.
Yeah, I would have to agree. Look, you and I talked about this offline. This is one of the more frustrating things about Joel Embiid's arc. Chronicling his his journey throughout the NFL. You see a guy who's ultra talented, clearly the most dominant player in basketball, but his body continues to fail him. It kind of gives me Derrick Rose vibes, a guy who's supremely talented. Obviously, Derrick Rose's injuries hampered him way more, but Derrick Rose, Joel Embiid, two guys who are at the pinnacle, guys who are coming off MVPs, and they just cannot stay healthy no matter what they do or try, man. And I'm sure Joel Embiid's doing everything possible physically, mentally, to try to make sure he stays healthy. He started taking his conditioning way more serious over the past 3 or 4 years or so. And it's just all that size, all that athleticism, all that skill. Mm-hmm. His frame can't hold the power. Yep. His vessel cannot hold that much dominance. And that's basically how I look at it. I agree. It's just everybody's body's different. And that's a gigantic human being. And for whatever reason, his lower extremities just can't hold up. I had somebody ask me yesterday on WIP,
they said to me, well, how come Joker's not hurt? I said, everybody's body's different. You know, everybody responds differently. It's not a knock at Joel. It doesn't mean he's soft. It doesn't mean anything like that.
If you notice, Jokic, they play the game totally differently. Jokic is more flat-footed. He doesn't really leave the ground that much. He's very contained, but it's like controlled chaos. Like he doesn't do too much with his body physically, but his footwork is tremendous. He can create so much space with so little movement.
You're right. It's probably less wear and tear on his legs.
Exactly. But
no question. All right,
hopefully there's a silver lining at the end of this thing.
So we're going to talk. Keith Pompey is going to join us at 12. We'll get into detail with Embiid, what they do at the trade deadline, which is Thursday. It's clearly been a struggle of late, and the differences this season without Embiid compared to other seasons. So we will talk all those things with Keith coming up at 12 o'clock. The Eagles have themselves a quarterbacks coach, Tone.
Yes,
Doug Nussmeier comes over here. He has worked the last 6 years with Kellen Moore, both in Dallas and with the Chargers last season. So these two know each other very well. He's a respected guy. Those two are tasked along with Nick with the most important job of this team, making sure you get Jalen Hurts back to elite.
Absolutely.
Plain and simple. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend to tell you that I watched the Pro Bowl competition skills. I did not. But I saw some highlights of Jalen Hurts moving around, and he looked pretty good to me. I understand that that's not real football. There aren't guys chasing him. He isn't getting tackled. But maybe what I'm driving at here is maybe all the knee needed was a little bit of rest for a couple of weeks, and hopefully there isn't a procedure that's needed, which bodes well for next year. So that's good. But, let's look at it, Tone, because in some ways his numbers are still very impressive last season, but in other ways they weren't. All right. So 2022, mind you, he did this in 15 games, right? So 3,701 passing yards, 22 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. This past year, played all 17, 3,858 yards, 23 touchdowns, 15 interceptions. So the obvious big difference there is the interceptions, 9 more this year. Completion percentage, very similar, 66.5 in 22 to 65.4 last year. Passer rating's a big drop-off.
Correct.
101.5 in 2022, 89.1 last year.
And that's due to those turnovers, man.
Right on. Rushing, he ran for a little bit more. And I don't think that's a huge deal, but he did run for more, 760 in 2022 compared to 605 last year. Rushing touchdowns similar, 13 to 15. But here's the other, big distinction. 0 fumbles in 22.
Well, fumbles lost.
That's the big thing. Fumbles lost. And this is
because he's fumbled the same amount, 5 times last year, 6 times this year.
Some of it's
sometimes, luck. And this just goes to tell you, the ball bounced the Eagles' way a lot last year.
It sure did.
And this year, not so much.
So he ended up with 4 that he lost this past year. So, all right. So let's dig into this thing a little bit, just to sort of gauge this and how much of a turnaround, in fact, this is going to be for him and what we think it's going to be. Would you categorize this as like an overhaul or just sort of a tune-up when it comes to him in car parlance?
I don't think Jalen Hurts needs an overhaul. I don't think he needs a new transmission or a new engine. You know what I mean? I think Jalen Hurts, like you said, I think he needs a tune-up. I think he needs a oil change, a tire rotation. You know what I mean? Probably needs to get some new tires in general. But I look at a guy like Doug Nussmeier. Am I pronouncing that right? Nussmeier?
Nussmeier, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I'm looking at his experience, right? And I was talking to John McMullen about this yesterday. Him and I did a quick football 24/7 in lieu of the hires, and obviously they let go DK McDonald. We're going to talk about that, I'm sure. But I look at a guy like Doug Nussmeier's experience. He played in the league, was very successful in college, but he's been a quarterback coach for north of 20 years. He's been coaching quarterbacks since 2001. The BC Lions quarterback.
It's just not a young cat. He's not starting out. Yeah.
Right. And he has some pretty strong credentials, right? He was the Fresno State OC and quarterback coach, St. Louis Rams quarterbacks coach in 06-07, the Washington offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach. I think that's the college team. from 2012 to 2013, Alabama's offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach, Michigan OC and QB coach, Florida OC and QB coach, and he made his way back to the NFL. The dude has real experience. He's been brought in by some of the most top tier programs in football, so he has to have some level of success at his job. The Philadelphia Eagles are doing everything possible to leverage experience against Jalen Hurts' skill set, and they're not leaving any stone unturned. Now, we can obviously go back and discuss and, rip them apart about their previous decisions, but I kind of want to focus on today and going forward. And as of right now, Doug Nussmeier, based off his experience and the type of programs that he's been attached to, he has to be good at his job in some shape, way, or form. So I'm curious to see what he can bring out of a guy like Jalen Hurts.
I think, the first thing you do is, you sit down with him and you get his opinion of how he views last year. And I don't think you color it either way. Like you say to him, all right, give me your thoughts on last season. And I want to hear what he has to say, what he has to say on a positive level, what he has to say. Okay. All right. So here's what I'm seeing. If I'm Kellen Moore and I'm Nussmeier, who having, which is nice to have a fresh set of eyes coming in to look at this.
Absolutely.
All right. Here's what I'm seeing. I thought this worked well. I thought this didn't work well. I'm looking to get away from this. These are the things that these are the things that the coaching staff can correct on our end. Here's what I'm seeing from you. Footwork, whatever, this is what we need to do. We think for you to have more success in the pocket, climbing the pocket or whatever. I'm not going to emphasize everything has to be a big chunk play. I want us to be able to take what's given to us and just, matriculate the ball down the field, et cetera, whatever the concepts are that they have. I think the other thing the Eagles think is Kellen Moore and Nussmeier are going to blend what they do well with what the Eagles feel like they already do well and try to get the best of both worlds. Because for the most part, Moore's had guys who are more pocket. Dak's more of a pocket. Herbert's more of a pocket. So but that's okay. I mean, any good coach can adapt, or should at least in theory be able to adapt to what he has. It doesn't mean you take away Jalen's, strengths there.
Right.
I think, in fact, they ran a lot of RPO stuff with Herbert last year. I think that'll continue. I think we'll see more of it, and hopefully we get back to letting Jalen run the ball a little bit more. And I know a lot of people don't agree with that, but I want to play to the guy's strengths. I don't care.
Yeah, and here's another thing too. Look, I look at Jalen Hurts as a guy, right? Oh yeah, he's a dual threat guy. Yeah, but let's not pretend like he can't. Not you, but let's not pretend he can't throw the ball at all.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like Jalen Hurts is a guy who can throw the ball. That's not hearsay. That's not a myth. He can be very accurate. As a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, I want to make sure I got this right. I'm looking at an old tweet from our guy Jeff Kerr on October 30th of 2023, and from that date, he has a stat here saying since the start of last season, from that date, Jalen Hurts has a 72.7 completion percentage, over 5,300 passing yards, 31 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, 8.6 yards per attempt, a 107.1 passer rating in the pocket, which is first in the NFL at that time, second in passer rating at that time, third in yards per attempt at that time, and seventh in TD passes at that time. So Jalen Hurts, he knows how to throw the ball from the pocket.
Right.
What I would like to see more is him utilize the entire field from the pocket. I would like his pocket presence to improve. I definitely think he took a step back with the footwork. We talked about that.
Yep.
But I'm not looking at Jalen Hurts as a project. You know what I mean? I'm not looking at that at all. But I'm definitely looking at Jalen Hurts as a guy who can definitely stand to increase his repertoire and expand his game. So there's a lot of pressure on Jalen Hurts coming into the season because they're surrounding him with a lot of quality people. Now, will it work? Will the marriage work? We have no idea. Will they be a great fit? We ultimately have no idea. We're basing it off their experience. But when they're surrounding you with guys that have quality stops, on their resume and who've been doing their job at a high level for north of 20 years, like a Doug Nussmeier and Kellen Moore, who's been an OC for 5 or 6 straight seasons and has proven track record in beating the blitz. There's a lot of pressure on Jalen Hurts coming into the season. You're the franchise quarterback. That contract kicks in this year. I'm done talking about the project and, you know, how he's still developing. Listen, yes, his career is always going to be fluid. He's always going to be learning more and more and more. But now you're getting paid the big bucks, Playboy. And I'm one of your biggest fans. So a lot of pressure on you coming into the season. It's time to put up or shut up, in my humble opinion.
I like a couple things. I like that you have a fresh set of eyes on them that come in from the outside and look at the film and weren't in the middle of it last year. I think there's an advantage to that, right?
Like they're not biased. They're not.
No.
They're looking at it with fresh eyes. Like I love the way you put that. Fresh eyes.
You're going to be clean. Like, all right, this worked. This didn't work. I don't know why. I don't care why. But let's get to where we need to get to. I think that's important. I also like the fact that now Nick has two guys that he can kind of lean on who have seen more stuff than the other two guys who were here last year, you know, especially Fangio. But I mean, I think the same thing with Kellen Moore. So I like those two. I think they're two advantages that you have now that you didn't necessarily have last season. And I think when it comes to Jalen, I truly do believe this. I mean this. I think he is a guy. A lot of times when you had the accomplishments at the professional level that Jalen's had and you got paid like Jalen did, sometimes guys start to just check out, do the Wentz thing or whatever. I don't think that's Jalen Hurts. I think he is open to coaching. I think he's open to being coached up. His whole career, his whole life, it was his dad, who we know wasn't playing, Nick Saban, who doesn't play, and Lincoln Riley, who doesn't play when it comes to the offense. So he's used to it. So coach him up, man, and get into him. And I think it's the best way to get the best out of him. And the other thing I'm doing, Tone, I'm showing him 22. Hey, look at the way you climbed the pocket here and delivered this football. Let's get back to that.
Another thing too, Rob.
Yeah.
You know, I look at Jalen Hurts as a guy, right? Look, you have there's a large opportunity in front of Jalen Hurts, right? And I look at him as a guy who never really was given anything when you really think about it. You know, his journey, when you think about it, from Alabama, then to Oklahoma, and how everything went, and even his beginnings in the NFL, things were never ever exactly how he wanted them to be. I'm sure there were doubts about him all along the way. He's had to earn it every step of the way. He's had to prove people wrong every step of the way. So with that, with that track record, with that history, one can only assume that this guy has the mindset of, I can never get too comfortable because it can be taken away from me at a moment's notice. He's experienced that. So I would like to think that mindset, would definitely translate over into his into his new path as a franchise quarterback, never getting comfortable, never being satisfied with the status quo.
Yeah, I agreed. And I think that's the thing with him that he can always lean back on. Like, it was never this just, straight up, moonshot to rocket to the moon or anything, whatever stupid cliche you want to use. It was always tough. It was always getting knocked down a couple of times, taking a step back and then launching forward. So I think that's good that he can depend on that kind of stuff and fall back on that kind of stuff. I think just from a psyche standpoint, it'll be good for him. And look, the other part of it is the talent's there, in my opinion. The talent's there, and there are things that you can do to get the most out of this guy. And this is where the coaching comes into it, and I think you take this job with the understanding, at least in my opinion, you take this job with the understanding, if you're Kellen Moore, that it's priority one or none of us are going to be back next year. You think about it, Tone. If this team doesn't have success, Nick Sirianni's out of here. When the head coach is out of there, it's not often that a coordinator gets retained. Sometimes they do. Sometimes it happens, but not often. So odds are all these cats are looking for work next year if this doesn't work with Jalen Hurts.
And odds are, and this is why I think this is how it may play out. And this is only if things go south with Nick Sirianni. I firmly believe if things go south with Nick Sirianni, they're going to position one of those guys that they've hired as their interim head coach. And that's going to be their way of being able to retain the staff, right? Maybe. That's going to be their loophole. Because can you really see them shifting their entire staff 3 years in a row? And also you're not just shifting your staff to these nobodies. You're bringing in some guys with pedigree, guys who've been around the league, guys that have earned the respect of their peers. I don't think the Philadelphia Eagles, even if they off Nick Sirianni, are looking at it from the perspective of, we got to clear this whole staff out. I think they're going to elevate either Kellen Moore, likely to be Kellen Moore because he's the younger guy. He's the offensive-minded guy. That's what they lean more into. I think they're more likely to elevate him. And then, that gives them the ability to kind of retain that staff and kind of lessen the amount of work they have to do going into that follow-up season. And again, this is all speculative, and we have no idea how this thing is going to play out. But because of the situation Nick Sirianni is in currently, we have to consider those options.
Right. No doubt. Everything's on the table, man. After the way last year went, everything's on the table. That's for
Absolutely.
Sure. All right. So let's come back, and I want to dive into – we're going to put Jalen aside for a second here, okay? Put Jalen on the side, on the back burner for 1 minute here. And I want to ask the question, what are the 3 biggest fixes that this team has to make aside from Jalen Hurts? 3 biggest fixes this team needs to make. Again, 12 o'clock, Keith Pompey. 1:30, Scott Lauber is going to join us. We'll talk some Phillies as they are inching close to spring training. We'll have our NFL segment coming up at 1 o'clock, as we always do. A lot in store for you on this Monday. Don't go anywhere. He's Tone. I am Rob. All right, I'm going to tell you about Bravo Pizza of Havertown. Was in there Friday, and you got Alex and the crew. They're getting a brand new oven, wood-burning oven. It is going to be a killer in there. Trust me when I tell you that. Family-owned since 1985. I've been going there since I was a kid. Bravo Pizza offers 20 different styles of pizza. They have slices to go. I get the upside down, but they have specialized pizza. However you want it, they'll make it. And they don't just do pizza. They do fresh pasta, sandwiches, wraps, wings, salads. Across the board, they get you covered. Bravo Pizza of Havertown is also committed to the community. They have fundraisers for charities, for schools, for little leagues, where the proceeds go to those organizations. You can follow them at the Bravo Pizza of on Instagram and Facebook for daily specials and promotions. They're located at 1305 Westchester Pike, Manoa Shopping Center, Havertown, PA. That's 1305 Westchester Pike, Manoa Shopping Center, Havertown, Pennsylvania. Give them a call, 610-446-3810, 610-446-3810. Bravo Pizza of Havertown.
I remember getting my heart broken when they lost the Super Bowl in 2004. We're big Eagles fans. We moved to South Philly because of the Eagles. When they won, we went straight to Broad Street, and everybody was going nuts over there, and it was just a memory that you'll never forget.